At the age of 5, my betrothed was born. I followed the adults to the hospital to visit her, only to discover that someone had swapped her with a baby girl from the neighboring ward. So, I secretly switched them back. Later, at our engagement banquet, her family's nanny snatched the betrothal gift list and pushed a frail girl in front of us, laughing arrogantly. My daughter married the young master of Ashford, all these gifts are mine. Never expected this, did you? The two children were swapped back then. Why should your daughter live a life of luxury while mine has to suffer all her days? That's Harrington's real daughter. The faces of both sets of parents turned pale, while I calmly looked at her. Didn't expect it, but I saw it. So I switched them back. Linda, the one you brought here is actually your biological daughter. Marcus, we're going to the hospital now to see Sophia and Chloe, hurry up and change your shoes. I stared longingly at the pudding on my plate, drooling. Mom, can I finish my pudding before we go? Every week, I only get one serving of pudding on Sundays. My mom couldn't wait any longer and impatiently grabbed me by the collar to drag me out. No. Sophia's alone in the hospital. What if that scumbag shows up and upsets her? Come with me right now, immediately. I let out an "oh," slowly changed my shoes, climbed into the child's seat in the car, and felt full of curiosity about Chloe, whom I'd never met. Mom, what's an arranged marriage? My mom glanced at me but didn't respond. I called out to my dad again, Dad, what's an arranged marriage? My dad was driving, and he answered without hesitation, I don't know. I quieted down. Instead, I pressed my face against the car window to look outside, not seeing my parents letting out a sigh of relief. As soon as we entered Sophia's hospital room, my mom rushed anxiously to the crib, and I ran after her. Inside lay a tiny baby sleeping with her eyes closed. She was so fair and soft, even more beautiful than my pudding. I wanted her to open her eyes and look at me. I tried to make my breathing louder, pretending it was effortless. She didn't open her eyes to look at me. I dragged my heavy footsteps behind my parents and greeted Sophia. Hello, Sophia. While my parents were talking to Sophia, I crept back to the crib again, carefully wiped my hands, and lightly poked her cheek. Softer than pudding. I tiptoed and gingerly placed a piece of chocolate beside her hand. Somehow, the chocolate had melted. The brown stain remained on her pink little outfit, and I tried to wipe it off vigorously, but the more I rubbed, the more it spread, even the baby blanket got smeared with chocolate. I withdrew my hand like a thief, glancing around nervously, terrified of being noticed. This is bad. Neither my parents nor Sophia noticed what was happening on my side. I remained nervously crouched beside the crib until my parents called me to go home. I was still tense and anxious, afraid my wrongdoing would be discovered. Sophia deliberately teased me, Marcus, you really like your baby sister, don't you? How about living at our house from now on? Our family and Sophia's are neighbors. I nodded, I'll stay at Sophia's place. If I lived at Sophia's, I could wash Chloe's clothes. When you make a mistake, you have to find a way to make amends. My mom glared at me impatiently, Marcus. Why don't you just stay at the hospital with Sophia tonight then? I thought for a moment and looked seriously at my mom, then can I go home to eat pudding first before coming back? My mom said with an exasperated laugh, no way. You being here is just causing trouble for Sophia. But you can go take care of your little sister after they get home. With reluctance and a tinge of guilt, I glanced once more at my little sister sleeping in the cradle. All right then, I'll come see Chloe tomorrow. Before leaving the ward, I saw Sophia had already closed her eyes, as if she had fallen asleep. At the corner, my mom eyed me suspiciously. You're unusually well behaved today, did you cause trouble? Raising her voice, she added, school starts tomorrow, have you not finished your homework? I guiltily stiffened my neck and retorted loudly, I finished it. Mom, I left my things in Sophia's ward. I need to go back and get them. If you've done something wrong, you should own up to it. I need to go back and apologize to Sophia. My mom was just staring in one direction. Vincent, I see Sophia's ex-husband. Come with me to follow him. Marcus, stay quietly with Sophia. Your dad and I will pick you up soon. Just sit there quietly and don't disturb Sophia while she's sleeping. She wanted to see what that scumbag was doing at the hospital. Before I could finish speaking, my mom had already hurriedly dragged my dad away. I had no choice but to retrace my steps alone, only to spot a woman carrying a child coming out of Sophia's room. I clearly remembered there were only Sophia and Chloe in the ward. I stared wide-eyed, not daring to blink, watching the woman carry a baby into the neighboring ward and come out again. Oh no! Chloe was stolen. There's a thief. I rushed into the ward in a panic, only to see a baby lying in the cradle. I couldn't tell what a little child looked like, but I recognized the pink outfit I had stained. Sophia was still asleep as I yanked at the baby's clothes. Only the pink blanket had a smear of chocolate sauce. The pink outfit was perfectly clean. I was absolutely furious. Whose kid is this? I don't want to swap with them. Glancing at the sleeping Sophia and recalling my mom's warning, I anxiously paced in place before gritting my teeth and making a decision. I'm bringing Chloe back. Without further ado, I mimicked my mother's way of holding a baby, stepped onto the sofa, and took away someone else's child, staggering as I ran out. I burst open the door of the next room and rushed straight to the crib. There it was, the little pink outfit stained with chocolate sauce. She was lying wrapped in a blue blanket. Without hesitation, I switched the two babies, cradling the real Chloe in the chocolate-smeared blanket as I hurried back. After hurrying all the way and finally placing her back in position, I was drenched in sweat, leaning on her cradle to catch my breath. And yet, she didn't even bother to open her eyes to look at me. I muttered quietly, if I hadn't swapped you back, you would have grown up in someone else's home. I don't like staying at others' houses, and I didn't want Chloe to stay at someone else's place either. I stood in the room, staring at her crumpled dirty clothes in distress. Marcus? Why are you back again? Hearing Sophia's gentle voice, I looked at her pleadingly. Sophia, I'm sorry. I got Chloe's clothes dirty. I wanted to give her chocolate, but it melted and stained her clothes and blanket. I'm sorry. I pointed at the brown stain, only for a small hand to gently grasp my finger. Expecting Sophia to pull my ear like my mom would, she instead just chuckled softly. It's okay. Chloe really likes Marcus. I hurried over to Sophia in a panic. Are you really sure it's okay? I can wash Chloe's clothes clean. Sophia patted my head. It's really okay. The nanny will wash Chloe's clothes clean. The nanny? Yes, the nanny. The person who wants to replace Chloe is Sophia's family nanny. I was just about to tell Sophia that her family nanny is a bad person when my mom barged in angrily. That bastard Victor, sneaking around doing who knows what. I scolded him, but he didn't even argue, like he was waiting for someone. Later, he saw someone and laughed like a lunatic. Just thinking about Sophia's ex-husband fills Fiona with rage. Sophia looked at her angry friend and said, why bother getting mad at him? He left with nothing. There's no need to waste anger on someone like that. She got out of bed and playfully teased the baby in the cradle. All my property will belong to Chloe in the future. During the divorce, the division of assets was difficult, so they decided to transfer everything under the child's name. It would be given to her when she came of age. Tilting my head, I watched without understanding what the adults were saying. I just stared in surprise at the suddenly wide-eyed child. Her eyes were even prettier than my glass marbles. That nanny must have thought Chloe was cute and wanted to switch her with Sophia. Hee hee, lucky I secretly switched them back. A decade passed in the blink of an eye. I often go to Sophia's house next door to take care of Chloe. On this day, it was Chloe's 10th birthday party. We celebrated for Chloe at a downtown hotel. 10-year-old Chloe was wearing a white princess dress, with an exquisite braided hairstyle adorned with a small diamond crown, looking like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. Chloe and I were sitting in the dressing room waiting for the adults when her family's nanny arrived first. I watched warily as the nanny, who often hit her own child, entered. Linda, what are you doing here? I had once seen Linda secretly hitting her daughter in the kitchen. After I told the adults about it, she said she was only disciplining her own daughter, and then proceeded to beat the girl even more harshly in front of us. Since then, I pretended not to see it. After all, as she said, she was beating her own daughter. Linda smiled ingratiatingly at me. Young Master Marcus, I'm here to deliver a birthday gift to the young mistress. She took out an exquisite gift box, opened it, and handed it to Chloe sitting beside me. Chloe, this is a birthday gift from Linda for your 10th birthday. See if you like it. Inside the box was a music box, with a spinning ballerina in the center. A beautiful and harmless gift. I sighed in relief, leaning back into the chair. Chloe happily took it with surprise. Thank you, Linda. I really like this gift. The unexpected struck without warning. Smack. No one could have anticipated that Evelyn, standing behind Linda, would suddenly knock the gift out of Chloe's hand. Her eyes reddened as she shrieked, "This is mine. Mom, didn't you promise to buy me a music box if I came first in my exams? Why did it become Chloe's birthday gift instead?" She scanned the room, her gaze falling on the mountain of birthday presents piled behind Chloe, and finally burst into tears. Today is supposed to be my birthday too. Chloe already has everything, why does she have to take this one thing meant for me? Mom, tell me, who is really your daughter? The exquisite music box rolled across the floor, but no one bothered to pick it up. I stood up, shielding Chloe behind me. Get out. Security, escort them out. Linda, your gift is too much for our Chloe to accept. You'd better take it back for your own daughter. Chloe has been well protected by us since childhood. She tugged at my shirt sleeve helplessly and said, Brother Marcus, is she being treated unfairly? Chloe rarely encountered people who spoke so loudly. As her mother's business grew increasingly successful, the number of smiling faces around her multiplied. Those around her always spoke in soft, gentle tones. In her view, unless someone had suffered a great injustice, they would never speak to their own mother in such a manner. I paused slightly and told her earnestly, Chloe, no matter how much injustice she has suffered, it has nothing to do with us. As I grew older, I gradually came to understand the events of that year. Linda didn't switch the children because Chloe was beautiful, she wanted her own daughter to replace Chloe. I secretly had DNA tests done for Chloe and Sophia. I am absolutely certain that the Chloe who grew up by our side is the real Chloe. As for Linda, how she treats her child is her own business. I never told my parents about what happened back then. As long as Chloe is with us, a nanny like her can't stir up any trouble. Her malice will only bring her own suffering. Smack. Evelyn. Take a look at yourself, you think you're worthy of using what I bought? You were born with this fate, how could you ever compare to Chloe? A heavy slap landed on the frail girl beside Linda as she struck her. I frowned at her actions. Linda, if you must discipline your daughter, do it at home. Putting on this show in front of us makes it seem like we're the ones bullying you. The same Linda who had been domineering toward her daughter now smiled apologetically at us. Sorry, we've disturbed Chloe's birthday celebration. Young Master Marcus, we'll take our leave now. She picked up the dropped music box with heartache, cradling it in her hands as she presented it to Chloe, pleading. Chloe, I specially chose this for you. Don't listen to Evelyn's nonsense. This was something she had carefully selected for her own biological daughter. It had cost her a month's salary. Evelyn, who had been slapped hard, watched everything unfold in silence. I couldn't bear it. Chloe doesn't lack these things. Linda, take your daughter and leave. Chloe wasn't wrong, Evelyn wasn't wrong either, it's the adults hiding selfish and malicious intentions who are at fault. Chloe casually picked up one of the many cakes and handed it to Evelyn. It's your birthday too today, here you go. Her mother's friend had brought her many gifts and cakes. Evelyn's face flushed red, looking into Chloe's clear eyes, she felt even worse than before. I don't want your cake. I'm not a beggar. Smack. Another heavy slap landed on her back. Linda eagerly took the cake handed to her by Chloe, her smile even brighter than on payday. Thank you, Chloe. Evelyn, how did I raise such an ungrateful wretch? Hurry up and thank Chloe. I reminded her, Linda, no matter what, Evelyn is still your daughter. Linda brushed it off, my daughter is. They're both Victor's daughters, so why should her daughter suffer while Sophia's gets to live like a princess at Harrington? I said no more and gestured for security to escort them out. Chloe's birthday celebration couldn't be ruined by them. As they left, I caught Evelyn's venomous glare directed at me. It was her mother who mistreated her. Why direct that hatred toward me? Just before Chloe's college entrance exams, I rushed back from abroad. That day, my mother grabbed my ear and gave me strict instructions. Chloe has been coming home very late these days. Go follow her today and see if she's gotten into any trouble. Distractedly, I wondered whether Chloe might have missed me after not seeing her for so long. Marcus! Are you even listening to me? Rubbing my ear, I reluctantly nodded. I heard you. You asked me to keep an eye out for whether Chloe is experiencing any bullying at school. What else? Go ahead, I'll jot it down. My mom's temper is as fiery as ever. I glanced at my dad, signaling him to intervene, but just like all those years ago, he pretended not to see. As long as my mom doesn't come out short, my dad remains a mere bystander. I sighed, Mom, what exactly are you trying to say? My mom spoke mysteriously, Chloe's at that rebellious age, teenagers can be so contrary. Sophia and I don't dare ask directly, so you should go find out if Chloe has an early romance. Although you and Chloe are said by us to have an arranged marriage, both Sophia and I are open-minded parents. If you two don't end up together, we won't force it. I laughed in frustration, Miss Fiona, if you don't dare to ask, why should I be the one to do it? Besides, when did I ever say I didn't like Chloe? My mother answered matter-of-factly, because we want to be the most understanding parents in Chloe's eyes. We can't be the villains. What if Chloe becomes rebellious? Wouldn't we be losing more than we gain? The thought of Chloe having a puppy love actually made me somewhat uncomfortable. Mom, with an outstanding brother like me around, how could Chloe possibly be interested in her classmates? Chloe and I are engaged. I'm going upstairs to change, then I'll pick Chloe up from school. Fiona watched her son's somewhat unsteady steps and said bewilderedly to her husband, didn't he just change clothes? 15 minutes later, Fiona looked at her son, who was completely transformed from head to toe, and sneezed from the strong fragrance of cologne. Marcus! Are you planning to open a perfume workshop? How many bottles of cologne did you spray? The fish in the tank are about to suffocate. I tugged uncomfortably at my tie and muttered defiantly, I'm picking Chloe up from school. Can't embarrass her. Of course, I had to make an effort. Afraid my mom might press further, I quickly grabbed my car keys and headed out. Chloe and I are having dinner out tonight. I initially thought my mom and Sophia were overreacting, but then I saw Chloe heading in the opposite direction of home after leaving school. Panicking inwardly, I hastily put on sunglasses and followed her. Inside the cafe, I narrowed my eyes at the middle-aged man sitting across from Chloe. His face looked familiar, likely Sophia's ex-husband. Chloe, what did your mom say? Has she agreed to see me? Victor looked at Chloe eagerly, the fervor in his eyes utterly unrestrainable. All the wealth back then had been given to the unborn Chloe. Since then, his standard of living had plummeted. It wasn't that he hadn't felt regret, it was just that Sophia was merciless and unwilling to see him. Chloe stared at Victor expressionlessly. My mother won't meet you, and I won't acknowledge you either. If you come to me again in the future, I'll have my mom's company's legal team sue you. This was the third time the man in front of her had approached her. She had her own life with family and friends, she didn't need a father she'd never met interfering. Watching from the sidelines, I nodded approvingly. Victor slammed the table in fury. Chloe, do you have any idea who gave you the life you have now? He shouted. Let me tell you, without me, you'd be nothing. No matter what, Chloe was only 18. Trembling from fear, she shot back, everything I have is thanks to my mom, it has nothing to do with you. From the time she could remember, her memories consisted only of her mother, Fiona, Vincent, and her older brother Marcus. Victor, enraged to the point of laughter, said, "Fine, fine, fine. Let's see if you'll still be this stubborn after you graduate from university." University graduation was the day he and Sophia had agreed upon. He glared fiercely at Chloe. "One day, you'll beg me in tears." But it must be said, even though they were both his daughters, Chloe was thousands of times better than Evelyn. I couldn't take it anymore. I took off my sunglasses and threw them at Victor's head. "Who are you threatening? Do you think Ashford and Harrington's legal team is just for show?" Thinking about a recent cooperation we were negotiating, I directly threatened, "Victor, I will no longer consider collaborating with your company." When I was studying abroad, I co-founded a company with a senior from the lab. From startup to IPO, it cost me countless efforts. That's why I haven't returned to my home country for nearly 2 years. Chloe looked at me in surprise, no trace of fear left in her eyes. "Brother Marcus. I missed you so much." I shielded Chloe behind me, just like back then, and looked at Victor with disdain. "Why aren't you leaving yet?" I had originally thought that the nanny wanted to swap Chloe and her own child out of self-interest back then. But now it seems there's more to the story. Sophia's ex-husband probably had a hand in it too. Even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its own cubs, he's truly a beast. I looked at Chloe with heartache and said, "Don't be afraid, let's go home." Chloe nodded vigorously, "Hum." I rushed back with Chloe in a flurry, just in time to find Sophia at home. She looked at us in surprise. "Marcus, didn't you say you'd eat out with Chloe today? Why are you back so early?" Usually, it was others who fawned over Chloe, not her needing to complain. But I was different. Since childhood, I knew how to shift the blame. "Sophia, Victor went to make trouble for Chloe. He said, have Chloe tell you that she wants to live with her father, and have Chloe pressure you to get back together." Thinking about Victor and Evelyn's relationship, I tapped on the desk, pondering how to phrase it. Ever since Chloe's 10th birthday party, every time he saw Evelyn, she had a gloomy expression. She was innocent, but Chloe was even more innocent. I vaguely guessed Victor and Linda's plan, a classic bait-and-switch, but I accidentally stumbled upon it. At this thought, I looked at the innocent Chloe and couldn't help but feel a chill. If I hadn't spilled chocolate on Chloe that year, they'd be treating an imposter well by now. Sophia's expression abruptly changed. She pulled her daughter close for a thorough check, her gaze as sharp as an X-ray. "Chloe, are you okay? Mom will make things right for you." Despite not actually suffering any grievance, Chloe's eyes reddened under her mother's concern. "Mom, he said if I don't do as he says, you'll abandon me. He also said you'd regret it." Sophia, usually so emotionally steady, was trembling with rage this time. For the first time since the divorce, she dialed that number. "Victor. Are you a beast? Bullying Chloe, a child, what kind of cowardice is that? If you've got the guts, come at me instead. If you dare disrupt Chloe's college entrance exams, don't blame me for going scorched earth. There are only a few days left until Chloe's college entrance exam." At this critical moment, Victor came looking for Chloe. It's obvious he has ill intentions. Even if her daughter fails the college entrance exam, Sophia has the means to send her abroad. She doesn't want her daughter's efforts to go to waste. Over the phone, Victor didn't even bother pretending, his words dripping with the arrogance of a petty man getting his way. "Sophia, I'll make sure your daughter can't take the exam. I told you, you'd regret this." Sophia retorted sharply, "Victor, all you're good at is threatening a child. After all these years, you're still as cowardly and incompetent as ever. You won't get the chance to see my daughter." She angrily hung up the phone, saying, "Chloe, I'll stay home with you these days." Chloe is an art student, and her dream is to become a free-spirited and passionate painter. I truly admire the vibrant and lively quality of Chloe's paintings. They are full of life and energy. At some point, Linda, who had quietly come to eavesdrop, looked at Chloe with heartache, gritting her teeth. Chloe works so hard, how could she not take the college entrance exams? She's nothing like Evelyn, who slacks off and skips school. It's useless for her. Once she turns 18, she can go work somewhere. Without education, where is the future? Sophia is such a determined person. If she found out her own daughter didn't even take the exams, she would definitely favor her Chloe even more. Her Chloe is the most outstanding one. Why should Evelyn get to enjoy all this? I looked at Linda meaningfully as I listened to her words. Linda, sometimes I can't even tell who your daughter is. You're so lenient with Chloe, yet so strict with Evelyn. No matter what, Evelyn is your daughter. Let her finish college so she can find a good job in the future. Linda didn't take it seriously, and her words were full of disdain for her daughter. I've already shown her the utmost benevolence by raising her this big. If it weren't for taking care of her daughter, she would have stopped being Sophia's nanny long ago. If Evelyn were even half as outstanding and sensible as Chloe, why would I have let her go out to work so early? Sophia's daughter could only be trampled underfoot by her Chloe. No matter how wealthy Sophia is, what does it matter? In the end, won't it all belong to her? Seeing Evelyn returning home alone after school, her expression suddenly darkened. Where have you been fooling around? Chloe came back long ago. Why are you still wandering outside? Evelyn, I'm warning you, if you keep misbehaving out there, don't ever call me mother again. Unlike the last time she saw Evelyn, the defiant light in her eyes had vanished. Just glanced at Linda indifferently. Finished talking? In a few more days, once the college entrance exams are over, she can escape from here. Linda was furious. Evelyn, what are you so arrogant about? What right do you have to be arrogant? You eat my food, wear my clothes, spend my money, you do whatever I tell you to. Who do you think you're giving that attitude to? Linda grabbed Evelyn by the ear, cursing and scolding as she dragged her back to the servants' quarters. I sighed, unsure how to judge. She had made her own bed, now she must lie in it. During Chloe's college entrance exams, the four of us were on high alert, terrified she might encounter any mishaps. For the final English exam, we waited anxiously and bored by the examination hall entrance. Suddenly, a frantic girl came running out. Screaming, she tried to rush into the exam hall but was stopped by two security guards. Please, I'm begging you, let me in. I didn't mean to be late, my mom locked me in the house, and I ran away. She never imagined her own mother would stop her from taking the final exam. Just when going to university was supposed to be her escape from that suffocating home. The security guard looked at the drenched and exhausted girl, his heart softening, but he remained firm. Sorry, student, but rules are rules, we can't let you in. Once missed, you'd have to wait until next year. Evelyn collapsed in tears by the door, screaming at Linda, who had rushed over in a panic. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have missed the exam. I could get into a top university with my grades. You're trying to ruin my entire life. Her eyes burned with hatred. I hate you. Linda slapped her without hesitation. How dare you? After all I've done raising you, not only are you ungrateful, but you actually hate me? You're nothing but an ungrateful wretch. The surrounding parents chimed in with, Madam, well, since things have already come to this, having your child retake the year won't change anything. A mother and daughter shouldn't hold grudges overnight. You can't resort to hitting the child, kids this age are grown up. If you talk to them properly, they'll understand. Kid, no matter what, she's your mom. Talk it out calmly, just talk it out. Both my parents and Sophia frowned as they watched. My mother tactfully remarked. This Linda has become more and more unreasonable over the years. Given how devoted she is to Chloe, how could she treat her own daughter like this? Sophia massaged her temples with a headache. I warned her the first time she hit her daughter, but she only became worse, beating the child even harder in secret. It's not that I haven't considered firing her, but she's been truly devoted to Chloe, handling everything personally. Later, I tried several nannies, but none were as careful as her. She treated Chloe like her own daughter, so I had no choice but to keep raising her salary. She breathed a sigh of relief. Now that Chloe is going to college, I have a reason to fire her. If it hadn't been for Linda's unbearably unpleasant behavior, Sophia wouldn't have fired her. After living together for 20 years, they were practically like family. Perhaps because we were standing too close, Evelyn saw us. She rushed at me like a madwoman. "It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Chloe would just be a naive little fool, she wouldn't be so outstanding, and my mom wouldn't keep comparing us. I think she's being unreasonable. Chloe is outstanding because she's inherently excellent. How could Sophia's daughter be anything less?" I looked at her coldly. "Your misfortune stems from your mother. What does that have to do with me? You're being just as unprincipled as your mother. Isn't it exactly the same?" All these years, she never realized the one she raised was actually her own daughter. Of course, I'm not exactly a good person either. If she didn't tell me, I'd just pretend not to know about it. If she hadn't done anything wrong, there wouldn't have been any retribution later. It was all their own doing. The day Chloe's acceptance letter arrived happened to be her 19th birthday, and also our engagement party. We celebrated at a hotel downtown. Sophia announced the list of properties Chloe would inherit right then and there. My parents were afraid of falling behind, as if they wanted to give Chloe all the good things they had saved up over the years. Shops, luxury cars, jewelry, handbags, gold, stocks. The list of betrothal gifts was impressively long. The audience reacted with surprise and blessings. Looking at Chloe's radiant beauty today, my eyes were filled with love. This is my fiancé. My fiancé whom I've raised since childhood. Just thinking about the days ahead with Chloe makes me bubble with joy. Even my business partners remarked they had never seen so many smiles on my face before. I proudly replied. She's my fiancé whom I've raised since childhood. From the age of 5 to 24, Chloe has been a constant presence in my life. She's my best friend and the love of my life. Amidst a sea of blessings, I held Chloe close as we watched our tearful parents on the stage. Suddenly, an unexpected turn of events. Linda appeared out of nowhere. She rushed onto the stage and snatched the wedding gift list from my mother's hands. Finally, I've been waiting for this. "Sophia, I may be the nanny, but my daughter inherits your fortune and even married the Ashford heir. All these betrothal gifts are mine." "You never expected it, those two children were swapped back then. Why should your daughter live a life of luxury while mine has to suffer all her days?" Linda, trembling as if epileptic, pushed the frail girl behind her toward Sophia. "This is your real daughter. Your daughter didn't even take the college entrance exam, all she can do is work in a factory. And my Chloe, with a future so bright." The entire audience erupted in uproar. Especially my parents and Sophia, their faces turned deathly pale with uncontrollable panic, clearly recalling Linda's cruelty toward Evelyn. Whispers filled the air on all sides, and scrutinizing gazes fell upon Chloe and Evelyn, as if trying to distinguish the differences in their appearances. I reassuredly squeezed Chloe's fingers. "Don't be afraid, you are Sophia's daughter. I had a paternity test done." Despite my reassurance, Chloe still seemed at a loss. She opened her mouth as if to say something but ultimately remained silent, quietly following behind me. I held her hand and walked at a steady pace toward my parents. Sophia was so furious that her chest ached. She took a deep breath. "Linda, this joke isn't funny. Chloe is my daughter and has nothing to do with you. How could the daughter she raised from infancy not be hers? Chloe was her only daughter. No matter what, Sophia couldn't accept this." Seeing the usually proud Sophia on the verge of breaking down, Linda's smile widened. She continued to provoke Sophia. "You, Sophia, always claimed to be as indifferent as a chrysanthemum, so why can't you accept that the daughter you raised isn't yours? But it's all right, after all, they're both Victor's children. Sophia, if you hadn't insisted on divorcing Victor back then, how could my daughter have had the chance to become the young Lady Harrington? All of this is your fault. No matter how outstanding you are, what does it matter? In the end, you just paved the way for me." Sophia was so furious at Linda's shamelessness that her chest ached. "Linda, you've been with my family for 20 years, and I've never treated you unfairly. We have no grudge between us, why would you want to harm me like this?" Linda's eyes burned with equal hatred. "Victor and I were high school classmates. my family paid for his college tuition. He promised to marry me after graduation, but ended up marrying you instead. You're the one who actually intruded on our relationship. I've endured humiliation for 20 years, just waiting for this moment. Sophia, my daughter is also Victor's child. You didn't raise her for nothing. Otherwise, why would Victor have been so willing to leave all his property to the child in the first place? Because it would all eventually return to our hands, including your assets. She pushed Evelyn toward Sophia. Here, this is your daughter. Take your ungrateful daughter and leave immediately, don't ruin Chloe's engagement banquet. I quickly raised my voice. Linda, back when you switched the babies, nobody could have imagined you'd be so vicious, but I saw it. So I brought Chloe back. The one you've been raising all along was your own biological daughter. Chloe has nothing to do with you. Linda's delighted expression froze on her face, replaced by Sophia's look of surprise. Linda sharply retorted. Impossible. How could Evelyn be my daughter? My daughter is Chloe. I looked at her placidly. I've done a DNA test. Chloe is indeed Sophia's daughter. And Evelyn, she is truly your daughter. Linda, all along, your daughter has been right by your side. What I didn't expect was that Evelyn took this even harder than Linda did. Instead of being angry at her mother, she vented at me, it's all your fault. Marcus, why are you so cruel? Since you saw my mother switching the babies, why did you swap us back? Her voice choked with sobs, tears streaming down continuously. Marcus, what I hate most is you. All you needed was to say one word, and you could have changed my fate. Why are you so heartless? Looking at the girl breaking down before me, I felt nothing but relief in my heart. Why should I speak? If your mother had no selfish desires, none of this would have happened. What if they intend to harm Chloe? Evelyn burst into laughter, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Chloe has everything, why must she even snatch away the meager scrap of motherly love I have? Haha, I always thought I wasn't good enough, but turns out everything was wrong. Linda finally came to her senses, her eyes showing not a trace of remorse as she lashed out at Victor. Didn't you say it was foolproof? When Sophia was giving birth, didn't you specifically divert them away? How could you still let some kid swap our daughter back? Victor retorted unyieldingly, idiot. You're the idiot, how could you not even recognize your own daughter? The scene descended into chaos. In the end, Victor's face was covered in scratches, while Linda alternated between weeping and laughter, directing her first kind expression toward Evelyn. Evelyn, I did it all for you. Evelyn's face was hollow, devoid of any youthful spirit one would expect at her age. For me? Haha, my life has been ruined by you, and you say it's for me. You did it for yourself. I won't forgive you, and I won't come back. Just as well, you never wanted me to go to college anyway. I'll go work in another city. Linda hugged her, not letting her leave. Mom did it all for you. Wrong, everything was wrong. She never imagined that the child she raised by her side would turn out to be her own biological daughter. I looked at my frightened but unharmed parents and Sophia, then glanced at Linda and Victor who were brawling with each other, before waving for security to escort all three of them out. I raised my glass to the entire room in a toast and said, apologies for disturbing everyone's enjoyment. Let's continue. My engagement banquet with Chloe was also a high-stakes social event for the collaboration between our two companies. Everything quickly returned to order as if the earlier chaos had never happened. But everyone knew that Sophia's revenge had only just begun. That very night after the banquet, Sophia retaliated wildly against Victor's company, aggressively poaching his business in a no-holds-barred fashion. Soon enough, news reached me that Victor had gone bankrupt. As for Linda, under extreme shock, she completely lost her mind, constantly muttering that her daughter was a young lady, and was mercilessly sent to a mental hospital by Evelyn. When I heard the news, I couldn't help but hold Chloe tightly. She looked at me confused. Brother Marcus, what's wrong? I shook my head. Nothing, I'm just grateful. Grateful that I didn't run from my mistakes back then. Grateful that it's always been you who grew up by our side. Mistakes will eventually be corrected, but the harm cannot be undone. If I had seen Evelyn's clean clothes back then and let the mistake slide, I might have regretted it for the rest of my life. If Linda hadn't resorted to underhanded schemes but raised her daughter properly, her later years wouldn't have ended up like this. Life only asks for a clear conscience, and that is enough.